Okay, take a breath. Welcome to the winter congregational meeting, and welcome to all of you. So glad you're here and so happy to see almost all of our snowbirds are back or here. Welcome. So we've got a lot of business to do. I'm going to give you a brief state of the congregation. Julie Slayton-Frank, our treasurer, will give you a treasurer's report and then move into the budget proposal for January through June 2019. Then you'll hear from Stewardship Chair Chuck Tatum about the 2019 campaign. And then Ann Tatum will give you a project management team update. And after practice, as Ron said, we want to remind you that we have a Christmas party and cookie exchange, and thanks to Pi Irwin for organizing these festivities. First, I'd like to just introduce the MVUU 2018-19 Board of Trustees. We have Pi Irwin is the Vice President, Julie Slayton-Frank is the Treasurer, Paula Lipsitz is the Secretary, Kathy Kuzmanoff, Jan Mulder, and Chuck Tatum are all trustees at large. Could you just stand up a second so people know who you are? And I must say, this team, this board is an especially collegial, team-oriented group of people. We don't always agree with each other, and we have robust conversations, but they're always with the health and well-being of the congregation and each other in mind. So I think you are very fortunate. So first I want to just tell you what the board is up to as far as our goals for the year that we came up with after the retreat in the summer. There are 5 goals, and I'll just go through them really quickly just so they're sort of on the top of mind. One, the first goal was to develop an outreach strategy. Chuck prepared a proposal that was enthusiastically approved by the board, which includes a heavy use of social media, which is a highly effective and cost-effective way to meet our audience. And in 2 months since we started that, our social media activity has dramatically increased. Our Facebook following has gone up by 1,600%, yes, in the last 2 months. And on Facebook, post engagement, which means people liking or commenting on our posts, is up by 469%. That's again in the last 2 months. And our website data, traffic has doubled from the time of the site's relaunch, which was just a year ago, until now, and it sees at least 10 to 15 views a day. Second goal is nurturing and care of the congregation. Pi Irwin and Kathy Kuzmanoff are planning activities to engage everyone with one another, focusing on snowbirds, one-on-one coffees, and articles in the newsletter written by members about your practice. Number 3 is the complete revision of policies and to get them on the website. Julie Slayton-Frank and Jan Mulder have been working on this. It's not quite complete yet, but what has been updated is on the website under the About Us drop-down menu. Fourth goal is to complete a 5-year financial plan. You've heard this before, it's been a challenge with a number of uncertainties before us. But we agree that we must bloom where we are planted, so we anticipate a continuation of this process based on where we are at this moment. And the 5th goal, of course, is overseeing the building of our new home. Of course, that continues at full tilt, and Ann will provide you with an update in just a minute. So it's easy for good news to get lost in all the exigencies of the day, but I wanted to share with you just a taste of what our 130 members have been doing just since July. Connecting through Arizona Border Care, we have 10 households assisting with housing, money, clothing, food for asylum seekers waiting for their hearing. And this effort needs more support, as you can imagine, and if you can help, see Ron. Choya Chow time is breaking all records. Every time I ask how many are signed up? Well, it keeps going up. Over 70 people, over 70 of you are participating in Choya Chow time, and we've been doing that since 2013. A couple weeks ago, we had MVUU meet ourselves, and we had 17 groups or committees participating. Sacred Poetry Group continues. I can't remember how many years it's been, but it's steady with 10 regular participants. The choir has grown by about 5 this year, and we have about 20 members in the choir. We had in our educational programs, we had about 13 people participating in Exploring the Tao with Elizabeth Reed and Bill Casey. And the Mary Oliver Poetry series with Barbara Gates had 10 participants. And we have 238 people who are subscribers to our newsletter. And the Baja Four, which is, the 4 Southern Arizona congregations, we had one all-board retreat, and there was a one all-congregation picnic. And there are many more of you participating in book groups, movie nights or days, hikes, dining, and the monograph that's going to be published early in 2019. So, and then finally, I want to tell you the charity basket donations are absolutely incredible. Just since July, we've given to Literacy Connects, Keep Tucson Together, ICS, UU Jazz, PCI CEO, and Yodo. And we also gave to hurricane relief in September. And that, in 5 months, we've given over $4,000 to those organizations. And last year, just as a reminder, we did the Arizona Tax Credit Campaign, and we had $4,600 contributed from MVUU. And if you haven't given this year, see Bill Casey. It's a fantastic program that benefits both you and the schools. So amazing work by all of you, and I think you all deserve a hand. Now I'd like to introduce Julie Slayton-Frank, who will give you her report.
I always want to say good morning. Just, some people are slower than others to change. Good afternoon. Welcome. My husband's gesturing to me back there, but it was nice. It was very nice. Welcome to the financial part of the program. We sent out an email on Friday morning, giving the budget, giving explanations of what programs changed and what didn't. Overall, we're doing reasonably well, considering we are meeting at 1 in the afternoon, where it's this time of year, so the snowbirds and rainbirds are just coming back. We welcome you. And a lot of our donations come in the month of December for this half of the year. So we currently are running a little below budget, but not very much. Our expenses are way down. I have to give credit to the staff and everybody on committees. You guys are doing an amazing job of keeping expenses down, and I really appreciate that. We all really appreciate that. As always, it comes down to what's coming in as opposed to what's going out. So there's less going out, but there's a little less coming in. So we have put together a while ago we suggested a 6-month budget for the first half of the year. And the reasoning for that was we didn't know where we'd be right now. And we didn't know what expenses we would have come December, January 2018-19. So we went with a 6-month budget, and you graciously just went along with us. And so now we're at the second part of our 6-month budget. And I had sent that out also. At the end of each pew, there is a smaller version, and honestly apologize for the fact that it's hard to read. And if you don't have one, you can all share. We didn't make a lot because we try to save money and paper. But if you have any questions about our budget, we're looking at a little bit of a deficit budget. Let me get my computer to actually go in the direction it's supposed to here. Hold on. There we go. So we are looking at a deficit budget for the second half of the year. We have kept all of the staffing wages the same with the exception of the administrator who has been with us long enough that she'll be able to get benefits now. And as a former church administrator, those benefits are amazing. We give 10% of salary to the 401k. And nobody else does that. Churches ask a lot of you, and that 10% means a lot. The other changes we have made this year, most of the committees got exactly what they asked for. The sheet is also there because, for one thing, everybody's requests are reasonable, and we appreciate that. You all know that we just kind of scrimp a lot, and that's not a good word, but anyway. So we do have a few things that have been modified. We're going to be having a variety show, which will be part of the Musician of the Month proposal, which is a new program expected to cost about $2,200, and this includes the variety show. Marketing, we have increased that line. Chuck Tatum is going to be spearheading a lot of things for our marketing, and we appreciate that. So it will cost a little more than usual. Let's see. The stewardship requested $1,500. We brought it down to $1,250. And for a final number, the budget comes to a negative $2,555, which would put the annual budget, if everything remains the same, at a negative $5,777. A deficit budget isn't always a bad thing. It allows us to do some things, and it gives us the opportunity to grow within the revenue part of our budget. So are there any questions? I am kind of sure there will be. Or not. Okay, can somebody get my husband out of here?
I have a question. It's not clear to me with the music budget that there's any allocation for buying any new music.
For what in music? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
For buying new music.
That is in supplies. So it is in there.
Supplies?
Yes. This is a fund.
Oh, that's a different fund?
Maybe item 82.
Oh, it's under a different fund for supplies?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, because I saw that it was pretty small, and I couldn't figure out how that would work. How much is supplies?
One thing we're doing this year is, and we've been transitioning for the past couple of years, is to fund accounting. And what this does is it lets us have a much easier way of reporting. So we can pull out a report pretty much any time to say, okay, this is what the music program has budgeted, this is what they've spent, this is the balance due. And that's because of all those classes up at the top of the budget. We've broken everything down to programs. We know exactly how much our ministry costs, exactly how much our music costs, exactly how much RE costs, and then the other programs as well, both the committees and the larger programs, and stewardship, of course. I try to make that easy, but it's not always.
Did I miss something, or to put it another way, when is someone going to explain to us what this new music committee deal is, what it's all about?
I'm going to let Ron do that, or Kimberly, or both.
Would right now be okay? All right. I'm glad you asked, because I'm really excited about this program. I forgot how it came about, but Kimberly and I put our heads together, and this is what came out of our heads, is we're going to have a musician in residence, or a musician of the month program, which means that 2 Sundays every month, probably alternating, but maybe not always, we will have a musician from Tucson, a community musician, come in, and as part of our practice, basically we'll sing the covenant song up, I'll probably do it in vocation, and then we'll have this musician play 3 or 4 songs, 2 or 3 songs, about 10 minutes worth of music. Now, the idea behind that is twofold. One, it will affect our brains and our hearts. And so we will resonate with each other and with the music and enter deeper into a more rich space, interior space to practice. Okay, it's gonna feel really good for us. Secondly, it works a bit hand in glove with Chuck's marketing program, because it's one thing to say, constantly shout from the mountaintop, hey, we are a liberal religious community on the Northwest Side. But if you keep shouting that same thing, eventually people tune it out. So we're going to be able to shout at the beginning of every month, hey, we're a religious community on the Northwest Side that values so much music so much that this particular thing is changing every month. So it's a change that will ping people's consciousness, and so it's both for our liturgical benefit and for our marketing outreach. And then the musicians that participate in that will team up with some people from within the congregation to do what are we calling it? A variety show in February. So that will feature people from our congregation, people from the local community. We will market it to both groups, and we'll have a really, really amazing variety show this year that will also be a free will offering for legal purposes. But you know what I mean. Variety show. So it'll be a fundraiser and a community celebration that features us and these musicians that we're having. So does that generally answer your curiosity? You have one other question.
My other question is, and how are we taking advantage of the musical talent that we have in our own congregation, especially under the circumstances that we're trying to balance a budget?
That's a good question. They will be, local talent will be available or performing at the variety show, but liturgically, I specifically wanted people from outside the congregation for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't want to put Kim in the position of having to pick and choose who from within the congregation. That creates some waves that I wanted to avoid at the beginning of this program. We might move into that as we continue along. And then there was another reason, but it's slipping my mind right now. I'll get back to you with a more detailed answer on that. But generally we wanted, and also to be able just to market, to have a more impactful marketing portion of this plan. Any other questions?
Follow-up. If this thing doesn't succeed very well, if this thing doesn't succeed very well, this music program, are we able to
uninstall it for the following season.
Yeah, this is only, right now, this is just for this 6-month budget. And the music program is for 5 of those 6 months? January, February, March, April, and May. So, and then if we like it, we can continue it, and if we don't like it, we won't.
Whoops, whoa, baby. Bill, Casey, and I were at the storage yesterday putting in some books and things like that, and there's a possibility that we could reduce our storage and reduce your number by almost half. But
Bring it on.
But we want to go back and look at it, and take a look and see what we can move from one place to another, and also just find some spot that may be quite a bit less per month than what we're facing now.
Now, what you all don't know is that Bill Casey keeps the spreadsheet of everything we have and exactly, no, oh, okay, so Bill Casey used to keep the spreadsheet? That was a myth? I like my lack of reality
You're thinking of
sometimes.
Santa Claus, who keeps track of...
Well, somewhere there's a list of what we have.
I do have an inventory of all the art we have, but that's the only thing we've inventoried that I know. Art.
I thought you said heart. That's impossible to contain.
Getting back to Joe just briefly, thank you. That's a big help. Our transitional costs include rent and storage space, so any reduction in that is helpful to the bottom line. Thank you.
I just want to put on record that I am always against a deficit budget. In my own personal life, when I was very poor with 3 children, I saved $5 a week and we ate a lot of pasta. There are ways, and I think when we're going into a situation where we might want loans, it's not good to start down this slippery slope.
Thank you.
I'm Bob Bowling. I'm on the Finance Committee. I want to make mention that we turned this proposal down because we were in a deficit position, and the board decided to put it back in. So I want you to know that people on the Finance Committee that didn't like the idea either, and a lot of it was written on a piece of paper, it was shallow, and nobody came in to talk to us about exactly what it was and how the money was going to be spent. And I'm just saying, there's not everybody in the hierarchy of the church grouping was for it.
It's $1,800 for the 6 months.
My question is regarding time. Are we extending the service by that 10 minutes? What are we eliminating?
Yeah, we are not extending time.
The total budget for music will be 22, but that program will be 1,800. I heard somebody say that over there.
And there are a couple of things that I would like to speak to that are not on the budget. One of them is Baja 4, which I'm saying goodbye to, except maybe to be an advisor. And so if any of you are really interested in continuing Baja 4, I would appreciate you considering to step up and be a representative for that organization. I think it's really a wonderful organization for Southern Arizona, but there is no funding for it from any church. So whoever is leading it needs to go to the board and say, please give us some money. The next thing is that, as you know, I've taken on pastoral care here, and there also is no money for that, and there could be some more things that we could do, and maybe I'll make a proposal later and it can be included in next year's budget. But to me, a budget is a moral commitment. And we put our money in those things that we're most interested in doing. So think about it.
Thank you, Betty. I couldn't agree with you more about it being immoral. It projects who we are within our congregation. I've made notes for the Baja 4 and Pastoral Associates. Those lines will be on the next budget, and whoever is the person for those will be contacted. Thank you.
Back to the music just for a second. I mean, as you know, I love music, and I'm not here on some Sundays because I'm at professional music events, but what will that do to the length of the services, which are fairly long now?
That was already asked, and we're not, you may not have heard it, obviously. We're not going to increase the length of the service at all. We're going to replace a hymn and something else will be shortened. So it won't have a great impact on time. It'll have a great impact, hopefully, on us. And, just to speak to that for a moment, this may not be fair, the minister speaking to it, but it is the brainchild of Kimberly and I, and it's near to my heart. I see it as an investment. We've lost 26% visitors over the last 2 years. We're down 26%. It's because, I imagine, in large part at any rate, we meet at a weird time in a kind of not normal UU facility. So we have to think outside the box a little bit and maybe stretch and maybe take a risk at this time. So this was an idea that came out of both liturgical experiences that Kimberly and I have had, as well as the recognition that we need to do something to generate guests in our pulpit, or I'm sorry, that too, I suppose, but guests in our pews. Because right now we're in a situation where new membership comes out of visitors, right? And a lot of you guys have been working really, really, really hard. And I acknowledge that there is a little bit of fatigue in the congregation. Part of that is because we don't have the people to replace leadership. We need to generate those people somehow. And so this is one way that we're investing in growing the congregation. Because as it is, that's not happening. We're suffering normal amounts of attrition with abnormal low amounts of visitors. 26% is a significant number, I think. So this is an effort to address that puzzle. Any other questions about that or anything having to do with the budget?
Karen?
If there aren't any more questions, we can take a vote to approve the budget as presented. So if we're all ready,
do we have a second on that motion?
Oh, we need, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Just keep it clear.
Thank you. So, any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And I would also encourage you to talk to members of the board about our decision to approve this budget with this small deficit. We had a very, again, robust conversation, and their minds were changed. There were people on both sides of the question, but I think some people spoke really eloquently on the value of this particular budget.
And I want to thank the Finance Committee. They are looking out for they're caring for the finance of this congregation. They're doing a good job. And in some ways, I would expect for them to act exactly as they have. So I appreciate your work, all of your work on that committee.
I want to single out the Finance Committee. Elena Wyatt is our chair, Bob Bowling, Chuck Graybill, Ray Oswald, and Ann Tatum. And they work hard, so thank you very much. So I turned my earrings on, so I guess this means that we're done unless there are any more questions. And thank you all for your contributions of time, talent, and treasure. My area is treasure, but the time and talent count too. And it just, we could not, literally could not do this without all of you. And a plug for, if you would like to get your donations in by the end of the year, the last service, I believe, is Sunday the 29th. So you can drop something in the basket then, or put it in the mail, or do it online. So, or by text, as I occasionally talk about in Joys and Sorrow. So thank you all very much.
So I'm the new stewardship chair. You can applaud at the end of it. I come from a long line of distinguished stewardship chairs, and I want to acknowledge, going back to, and I may miss some, Evelyn Bennett Alder was stewardship chair, and Tatum was stewardship chair. Tom Bunch was stewardship chair. Most recently, Greg Bettinger was stewardship chair. Jim Gesseman was stewardship chair between, I'm not sure, let's see, I think it was between Ann and Tom. And I want to assure you, and I'm missing somebody? Sorry. Okay.
I was very silent.
Thank you. I said I would miss people. Now, I've drawn on all of the former, or most of the former stewardship chairs for their wisdom and their advice, and particularly the materials they generated. And all have been forthcoming. I'm very appreciative to Jim, Greg, and Tom in particular for making available to me materials that have been used in the past. I've been a member of this congregation since the late 1980s, along with Ann, and I chaired the pledge drive. It used to be called the pledge drive in the old days. Now it's the financial commitment campaign. But I don't want to talk about that today. You'll be hearing more in the new year. So stewardship's vision is to significantly enhance the appreciation for and the existence of the connections that exist between members and friends within MVUU. In the coming year, it will be my mission as stewardship chair to strengthen and invigorate these connections, building on an already strong base. Now, many of you attended the MVUU Meets Itself just a week ago, and you experienced firsthand, going table to table, how we are connected. And I want to thank Jane Paul for summarizing some of these connections in a really wonderful document in which she divides these connections into different paths: spiritual path, fellowship, and justice outreach. And Karin has already mentioned some of these different sub-paths or minor paths off the main paths. But I just want to kind of go over them with you, just to remind you the many ways in which we are connected, which is the overall focus of stewardship. Our traditional practice, our choir, our children and youth religious exploration program, our adult religious exploration program, and Karin has already mentioned that we had a class on Taoism, exploring Taoism, that Bill and Elizabeth offered, one on sacred poetry that Bob Wallace has continued to offer for several years now. Mary Oliver, the poetry of Mary Oliver that Barbara Gates is currently offering, an anti-white supremacy training that Hannah Coy Ron and myself will be doing in late January, early February. And then we hope to have a parenting Montessori perspective class sometime in the next few months. We also, under the spiritual path, have Finding Heart groups, and you're busy signing up under Debbie Roberts' coordination, signing up for those courses, or those groups. Under fellowship, we have numerous connections through the Sunday book group, the pastoral care team that Betty just talked about, Bookaholics, the Sunday brunch group, the International Dining Group, the Loft Movie Group, Choya Chow Time, First Friday Hikes, and then under Justice Outreach, we have numerous 501c3 and other community social justice efforts that we sponsored over the past year. And Karen mentioned that we had already contributed $4,000 to these efforts. So I just want to emphasize for you the ways in which we stay connected, strengthen these connections, and these will continue into the new year. Once again, Stewardship will schedule a number of cottage gatherings in people's homes to help strengthen these connections among old and new members, snow and rain birds, and members who reside year-round in Tucson. These gatherings will be in late January and early February, and already we have between 8 and 10 of these people who have stepped forward to volunteer to host these gatherings in their homes. So you'll learn more about that probably shortly after you come back in January. Also, I believe that one of the most important roles as stewardship chair is to lead an effort to invite the wider community